What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative. On this channel, I like to share with you about all of the things that I read and the many different genres that I read in. If you hang out here for a while, you're going to hear me talk about things that I read that are in the horror genre, science fiction, fantasy, classics, nonfiction, literary fiction, comics, manga. I've even been known to throw in a little YA and a poem or two here and there. On today's episode of Fun, I will be doing the book dating history tag. You just know from that title, it's gonna be funny. I was tagged recently by my friend Niko from the channel Niko's Book Reviews, and I just absolutely loved his version of the tag. I was chuckling through the whole thing. He is always so funny. I love to watch Niko, more for Niko than for the books he talks about, because he will crack himself up and he'll just laugh and giggle.
Yeah, bye, Niko.
Bye, Niko.
I don't have a hat. I can like knock myself over in my chair. If that
Yeah,
works.
just fall
Crack
over.
yourself in the butt.
Dangerous.
Are you okay?
That hurt more than I thought it was going to.
You ruined your exit. You should just left.
Oh, my chair leans over really far, so I knew it would work, but it. All right. Bye-bye.
I think we're killing Leslie in the chat.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. He has a lot of fun making his content, and it just shows. So if you haven't checked out Niko, I'll have him linked below with his version of the tag. Guys, if nothing else, please watch his intro on this tag video. It's everything. Let's get into these prompts. And the first one, I have the most embarrassing answer for, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to tell you the truth. So prompt number 1, first loves. What book was your first love? I had to go way back into time for this one. When I was 9 years old, I checked out a book from the library and it turned out to be a surprise hit for me. I kept checking it out over and over and over. And it got a little embarrassing because the librarian was like, wow, you really like this book. And so I thought, okay, I can't keep checking this book out. This is getting embarrassing. My solution at 9 years old was quite hilarious. I had a jam box, or a boom box is what we called it back then. And you had the cassette tapes that you could push play and record to record yourself or a song on the radio. And I recorded myself reading this book out loud so that I could just listen to the cassette tape and not have to check it out and suffer further humiliation from the librarian. Well, unfortunately for me, my stepbrother and his best friend had come home and I didn't know, and I looked up and they are like heads stacked on top of each other looking in the room to my doorway, and they were making fun of me because of course it was during a particular kissing scene that they hear me reading. Apparently I was really into reading this out loud, and oh my gosh, they teased me about that for years. But the title of the book is Karen Kepplewhite is the World's Best Kisser by Eve Bunting. That was super embarrassing, but there you go. Prompt number 2, outside your genre. What is your favorite genre? What book do you really like outside your genre? That question is not a question for me because, as I stated in my intro, I read a little bit of everything. If I could only read one genre for the rest of my life and I had to pick one, it would be fantasy. Fantasy is just edging out at the top over horror and science fiction. So I will pick from one of my other genres that I read probably the least in, although that is looking subject to change because I've read some really amazing classics lately. So I'll choose a classic, and it's going to be Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. To be fair, when I read this book and fell in love with it, I was just starting to dabble in reading classics and literary fiction. I've been a longtime fan of the channel, the Codex Cantina, and the Discord Literary Discourse was created, and buddy reads of these classics started happening. This might have been one of the first ones on that Discord. I joined it, I read this book, I flew through it, I loved it, absolutely loved it, and I decided I needed more classics in my life. Moral of the story, kids, step outside your genre sometime. Give some of these other authors a chance. You never know when you might find one that will change your mind about a genre and have you reading more of it. Because I have been reading more ever since this book, and I've absolutely loved every bit of it. This is one of my top favorite books of all time now. Prompt number 3, catfishing. What book catfished you? Was it good or bad? I had a really difficult time coming up with an answer for this prompt. There are a couple of different ways you can take it, and what I did, because I can't think of a book that I got catfished. Like, I didn't get one thinking it was about one thing and it was something else. I didn't really have one that was one thing on the cover and the book was about something else. So what I went with is I went with a favorite author who I've loved everything they've ever written until this book. That will be Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. I don't have a dedicated review on this one. I just talked about it in a weekly reading wrap-up, which I'll link up in the cards for you if you would like to hear those thoughts. But I have loved everything by Eric. He has the most beautiful prose I've ever read. And I got this book expecting to love it, and it is beautifully written, but I just do not like anything about this book. You know, if you want to hear more on that, check out that weekly reading wrap up and satisfy your curiosity. Prompt number 4, does size really matter? You know it does. What matters more to you, the length of a book or the ocean of emotion? As far as a narrative, a story, size doesn't matter. What matters is, did the story get told in its completion? Was it developed enough? Did it go far enough? Because a lot of times it's more about it's too much rather than not enough. There have been a few occasions where I wanted more, but it's not because it needed more, it's just because I was selfish and I loved the story so much that I wish the author had just kept going. But size does matter in regards to as long as it has enough pages to get that story told. Prompt number 5, out of your league. Name the book that is way out of your league, but you went for it anyway. That would be The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. His book, Crime and Punishment. I did not like it. That was one that went way too long. That sucker really needed to be about 300 pages and it would have been great. Now, this one was much better. This one I enjoyed. This one is way over my head though. Way over my head. There are some books and chapters in this that I have no idea what I read. Not at all. But I enjoyed the experience of it. There's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of whodunit. I think the whodunit, the mystery, is probably the most fascinating part of this story. It was totally out of my league. The only reason I tackled it is because it was part of a read-along by people who were smarter than me that helped me understand and get through it. Prompt number 6, kiss, marry, kill. Name 3 books that you kiss, marry, and kill. So I had no idea how to come up with those 3 books. So I hopped in Discord, I picked a random friend that happened to be Miss Richards Reads, and I said, Stephanie, name 3 books that you know that I have read. I'm not going to tell you why, and give me those titles. And so she did. She chose The Brothers Karamazov, The Patience of a Dead Man, which is my favorite haunted house book, and then she chose a recent new favorite in the fantasy genre of The 5th Season, which is the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. So I said, I will kiss The Brothers Karamazov because I enjoyed it. I'm not mad at it. I will most definitely marry The Fifth Element because I love this book. I love this series. I love the characters. I love the story. I love everything N.K. Jemisin has done with this book. I loved it. I want more of it. Forever and ever. Amen. And then I said I would kill The Patience of a Dead Man, not because I hated it. I just said it was my favorite haunted house story. I want to kill the thing in this story that haunts the house. I'm not going to tell you anything further than that in case you haven't read it. But for those of you who read it, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Prompt number 7. The ex you just can't let go of. What book do you keep going back to? That would be Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. This has to be my most read book of my life so far. I read it just about once a year, sometimes twice a year. It is the most beautiful story of unconditional love I have ever read. I have never read, well, I take that back. This author is really good at unconditional stories of love. She has another series, The Mark of the Lion, that is just, you know, I think I need to reread that trilogy. Prompt number 8 is The Bad Boy or Bad Girl. Name the book that is the bad boy or bad girl on your bookshelf. I wasn't really sure how to take that. I didn't know if it meant I didn't like it or if I liked it but I shouldn't like it. So that's how I took it. I took it as a book that had characters in it that were not good characters, and I loved them anyway. And that is The Blade Itself, Book 1 in the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. These characters are quite terrible people, some of them. They're bad people. They know that they shouldn't do the things they do, and they do it anyway. But I love that. I love them. I loved every moment of this non-existent plot story. If you can call it a story. We just read about a bunch of characters. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. The first page had me in love with the character that was on it, and I never stopped laughing or enjoying the whole way through this one. Prompt number 9, Friendzoned. Name the book that you know will be a good read, but you're kind of into this other book right now. That will be The Last Town by Blake Crouch. I've read the first 2 books in this trilogy, the Wayward Pines trilogy. I loved them. The first book I read in 24 hours because it was so good I couldn't put it down. I almost read the whole thing in one sitting. The second book didn't have quite that same breakneck pace. It was still really good and it had a killer ending. And then I just never finished the 3rd book of the trilogy. I've had it. I just never got around to it. There was always other buddy reads and read-alongs and books I wanted to read over this one. I don't know why. I want to read this book, but I kept putting all these other books in front of it. But that's going to change because I will be reading this book finally in the month of August because I do a wheel of names that have all of my patrons on it. And whichever patron is chosen, they get to choose me a book to read and talk about on the channel the following month. So it finally landed on Michael Knipp. And I knew without saying anything, I'm like, you want me to read The Last Town, don't you? And he goes, yep. So this one will finally come out of the friend zone. So folks, there you have it. Just because you might get friend zoned doesn't mean you won't one day come out of it. So prompt number 10. Let's get nosy. Tag 3 or more people and let them spill the tea that is their book dating history. So I'm going to tag Una and Crypto from the Codex Cantina. I haven't gotten them in a while and I think we could get some really juicy answers out of them for these prompts. I'm also going to tag Miss Richards Reads. Stephanie, I had you help me with a prompt, so that puts you on my radar for doing this one. I think this one would be really great to hear from you on. You read in some different genres than me. And I think that there's going to be some really funny answers to some of these prompts from you. And then thirdly, I'm going to tag my friend Kelly from Kelly Hooked on Books. I think she is going to have some hysterical answers. She delivers her book opinions in the most hilarious ways. Like, I don't even care if she doesn't like one of my favorite books. I love to hear her talk about why she doesn't. I think she will have some really funny answers. I will have all 3 channels linked in the description down below if you want to go and check them out. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this funny little tag. I did. It got a little embarrassing with that first one, but I guess that was kind of the nature of the tag. You know, and thinking back to these prompts, do you guys have any embarrassing answers to these questions? What book was your first love? Dish in the comments down below. Don't leave me floundering in embarrassment up here by myself. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope your morning has started off very well. I hope the rest of your day is amazing, and I will see you in the next one.